You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Feels weird to be back, I have to say.
I know. It feels like we've been gone for a very long time.
Even though it's only been 2 weeks since we last recorded. But so much has happened. I've grown a foot.
She has. It's kind of weird.
A third foot. No, just kidding. I grew 12 inches taller.
Wouldn't that be weird to like wake up one day with like an extra limb?
Yeah, to put it lightly.
If you had to wake up tomorrow morning with an extra limb, what would it be and where would you want it to appear?
I'd probably do another arm, like underneath my current arm.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
You could really like drive and then be eating fries so easily, you know?
Dude, you've just opened up a whole can of worms that I really like.
I would knit so fast.
Imagine having two extra hands like right underneath. They could be on the steering wheel and the other hands could just be whatever you want them to do.
Yeah, eyes on the road though, still.
Of course, of course.
Safety
We're not talking
first.
about extra eyes. We're talking about extra limbs with a B.
So please use them within reason. I wonder if no one has actually extra limbs.
I think they do.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think like twins, like the ones that like suck in their other twins in the uterus. They can have like extra stuff going on.
But like a full arm. Well, this is something we have to look into. If you know, listeners out there, if you know, please let us know. And if you don't know who we are the Good Evening Girls. I'm Grace Topinka.
And I'm Chelsea Rowan. You're listening to your favorite weekly pod word crosscast. Two girls, one crossword. That's us.
3 arms.
3 arms, 2 eyes, 1 crossword. It's
1
like,
heart.
oh my God. Yeah. If you listeners want to tell us what your preferred mysterious third limb would be, come over on social. Find us. Let us know. We're everywhere and anywhere.
We're all around you. We're like the wind.
We're like the Holy Spirit.
Well, on that note, I think we should go into Polapalooza because these people have been waiting 2 weeks. You could just go on our Twitter and see the results. But this topic, it was kind of hard to pick some topics don't really lend themselves to like a poll format, like pick 4 choices. So this is what we asked. According to Google, these are some of the most popular collectible items. Do you collect any of these? We had stamps, coins and currency, trading cards, and comic memorabilia. There was a lot of like comic books, Funko Pop, like that type of stuff. We had 38%, the highest, say coins and currency.
Okay.
Interesting.
Did you collect coins as a kid?
I had that. My grandpa and I used to collect the like state quarters when those came out.
That was a big moment in our childhood, Grace.
Yes, it was from like an infomercial. They sold that map that unfolded, and my grandpa and I collected it. It was very cute. Did you collect coins and currency?
Yes, I actually, my dad, we had those like blue books that you would like, they're like little pamphlet type cardboard booklet things. You'd open them up and they have empty spaces for the types of coinage, like buffalo pennies and whatever else. I don't even remember what they're called anymore. And my dad used to send me care packages more frequently. He doesn't send them as much now. But in his most recent care package, he sent me a bag of collectible coins and was like, for fun, here. And I'm like, what do I do with this? So I just put it in my desk drawer. So if you're interested, listeners,
then use Chelsea for her coins.
I'll send you a picture, whatever you want. Let me know.
Well, coming in at a tie for number 2, 25% each, we had stamps, which was your topic, and then trading cards, Pokemon, baseball, I don't know. And then last at 12%, we had comic memorabilia. But I did ask, do you collect something more obscure? And if so, leave it in the comments. And you said that you collect empty LaCroix cans at your desk, which
true,
you do. But we had someone else say that they collect vintage tin tomato cans to put flowers into, and I love that.
I love that. That was Anchika, I believe.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I didn't know if we wanted to say her name, but since we were on her podcast, Girl Jam.
We were. Check us out. Anchika's amazing. And she apparently collects vintage tomato tins. That's awesome.
I like that because it's something very specific. Like something that you could really hunt for at vintage or secondhand stores.
Agreed.
And then someone else said that they collected postcards, which I
Mm.
feel like now it's too late in the game for me to collect postcards.
You've been to so many places. You could have an incredible collection, but you stopped doing that.
I know. And postcards are such like a smart thing to collect, although it's really just a photo, which you could look up online anytime.
And print your own postcards.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have enough room for collections. I collect memories, actually.
I hate you. Now that I'm thinking about it actually more critically, I used to collect, and I guess I still would collect them, but I'm a really shit collector. Shot glasses. So like anywhere I would go, I'd get a shot glass. And it started as like I'm young and in college and like I'm going to get shot glasses everywhere I travel, right? But then I used them and I still use them. And it's actually quite sad. One of my favorite shot glasses I got was from New Orleans, and it was something like the joke was this like really sexy woman on a shot glass talking about like sucking a crawdad or something, and it was like really dirty, and I was like 21 and I was like, this is hilarious. But the decal is completely gone from the amount of times that I've washed it.
You have to wash those by hand delicately.
I know. Now as an adult who understands that these things are not permanent, I wonder why I used those shot glasses. But that's what I said. That's why I said I was shit at collecting things, because like I collect them, but then I don't do what you're supposed to do with them, like display them.
Yeah. I just don't have I don't have the room. I live in a studio apartment. I can't like designate a whole area to. That's why I said I will never buy a Funko Pop, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I know me. They're all so cute.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I don't have just empty shelves to put my hundreds of Funko Pops on. If you have a Funko Pop collection, send me a picture, please.
Do you remember the Disney Funko things that came out? I think they came out before Funko Pops.
No.
And they were like they basically were like, I guess people who collect Funko Pops would be angry at me for saying this. They were essentially Funko Pops. They're like these plastic figurines.
Essentially?
I can't remember what they're called, but I used to collect those as well. And you would go to like the different stores in the different parks, and they would have different collections, and you wouldn't know which one you were getting when you opened them up. And I tried to collect all the Cinderella ones.
Oh my
what were they
gosh.
called? I'll look it up and let you all know.
As if Disney needs any more ways to get money from people.
I wonder what they were called.
Scammerella.
Yeah, right?
Well, anyways, that's collections. Should we
move on? What's next?
move on with our lives? Yeah.
What is it? Hits and shits?
Heights and shites.
Okay.
Actually, I just want to give a quick shout out. I highlighted this as a hit, but I just like that now I know that oboes are double reeded wind instruments. I always knew there were wind instruments, but now thanks to crosswords, double reeds, I know it's an oboe.
Of course. And used to tune the rest of the orchestra, oboe. For sure.
Shout out to oboes. That was from a USA Today crossword, No Straight Lines by Mark McLean on April 15th. And another clue that I liked from that was 14 across. Character name checked on Taylor Swift's Love Story. It was Romeo.
Oh, nice. I don't know if I know.
Take me somewhere we could be. You know that song.
I know that song. I wouldn't have known it by the title, and I didn't know it by the title because I'm really bad with titles of songs. I'm also really bad with anything Taylor Swift related, only for the fact that I don't really listen to Taylor Swift. What can I say?
What can you say?
Do
you have any hits and shits?
Oh, I do have a few. I got some. I can talk about some hits and shits. I liked the Friday, April 9th New York Times. I think there were a lot of fun, long, there's like a lot of fun, long fill. This was constructed by Jamie Smith. Jamie spelled Jamey. I love to see, a name spelled differently than you might expect it to be spelled. So shout out to your funly spelled name, Jamie. Some of the long answers that were cool. 54 across, quick swim in freezing cold water. The answer was polar bear plunge, which you'd love to see it. I was actually thinking about doing polar bear plunge for my topic this week, but I didn't do that. Sorry, spoiler alert.
You didn't.
So I didn't. What else did I like? Oh, I also liked 18 down, treatment option offering communal support, and the answer was group therapy.
Ooh,
that was nice
I
to
like
see.
That.
Mm-hmm. And then I just wanted to shout out 7 down, performer with a single fan, ? Great clue. The answer was geisha. And if you're interested in learning more about geisha, check out episode 67, Tradition, Flip It and Reverse It.
That's smart. That's a smart one. These people.
And the only thing that I wanted to talk to you about, it's not a shit, just something I want to talk about as two people who lived through this time period. 35 across, meme animals. And the answer was LOL cats. And I just want to say, we got to move on. I'm sorry, I'm almost 30. We need to move on from LOL cats and grumpy cat and all that stuff. It's just, we got to move on. Memes are now in video and audio form only.
Yeah. I feel like LOL cats have been completely wiped from my memory. I wouldn't have gotten that.
For sure. I was like, what could this possibly be? But I was thinking more contemporarily.
Well, meme animals, I thought maybe it was like awkward penguin, all those, that
even
weird
then,
stuff.
Just stupid.
No, that's old.
It's old news. Anyway, what else you got?
Well, speaking of topics that you've done, the Wednesday New York Times by Nathan Hasegawa on April 14th. 41 down, actress who said, "You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough."
Mae West, baby. Queen.
Yes. And then I also like 27 down. I read it as spring recreation ? And I was like, what the heck is it? The spring recreation trampoline.
I loved that one. It was such a good answer.
And then
clue.
this one I just liked because it's not a phrase or you see very often. 19 across, completely exhausted, bone weary.
Nice.
And
I often feel bone weary.
Yeah. I feel like I keep seeing these things that I want to slip into conversation to make myself seem cool, but then I forget them. I need like a notepad just for that type of stuff.
Very true.
But I liked that puzzle overall.
Very good. Did you do the Friday, April 9th New Yorker? I can't remember if we did this one together or not.
I don't
Maybe
remember.
Not. This is by Wina Lou. Shout out to 16 across. I just want to bring this up. Alternative to the face with tears of joy emoji. And the answer was LMAO. And I just want to shout this out because apparently the face with tears of joy emoji is also out. And I'm not saying this as a shit, but I'm just letting everybody who might be on the older millennial side that emoji apparently has been canceled.
Yeah.
So.
Unbeknownst to Chelsea and I, we've seen the news. I still use it.
I know. We're just passing it along in case you are interested in that information.
Depends how cool you want to be.
But apparently
I was
it just,
never cool, so.
Yeah, apparently just tells people how old you are. I don't feel old, but... just passing along the news. It's just a ship in the night, okay? Ignore me if you'd like. But I loved this. I think actually we did do this puzzle together because I think you liked this clue a lot. 20 across. See what somebody's saying, ?
Read lips or lip read?
Lip read. That was nice. That was fun. And then 53 across. Salvador Dali had a pet one named Babu. And the answer was ocelot. Which I was like, holy crap, is that why Cheryl Carroll's ocelot in Archer is named Babu?
Probably.
I wonder.
Yes.
If you are a writer on Archer, let me know.
Otherwise, that would be a ridiculous coincidence. Unless Babu the ocelot is like a cartoon character, and they're both named after that.
Ooh. Is this like a double trivia? Is this like trivia inception right now? Who knows?
There's no way to ever know, so.
True. And then I also just wanted to say 44 across. I really liked to see this first non-white person to win a directing Oscar in 2006. So 2006, everyone, was the first time a non-white person won a directing Oscar. The answer is Ang Lee, which we all knew. But I wanted to say that it's super relevant because Chloe Zhao is nominated for the 2021 Oscars in Best Directing, and she's the first ever woman of color nominated in the category, which is so exciting. Also, this is the first year ever that 2 women were nominated in the directing category. Emerald Fennell from Promising Young Woman was nominated as well in directing. So I just think it's a good year for women in the Oscars.
Okay, the bar is literally buried.
It is so low. But it's nice to see. And also there's another more Asian representation in the directing category, Lee Isaac Chung for Minari, which I've yet to see, and I really want to see it.
I really want to see that one too.
I know.
But I feel like I have to be in the right headspace,
Trust me, I know.
with these Oscar movies, it's like you have to. I want to make sure I give it the attention it deserves, and sometimes I don't want to watch like a movie that really makes me think. I just want to watch Sabrina from the 90s version, not the new satanic kind. Although I do enjoy that one as well. But
I totally agree.
Well, I'll end on a quick Tuesday New York Times by Michael Lieberman. There were just a couple in here that I liked. 36 Across beverage brand whose first mascot was Willie the Hillbilly.
This is Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I had no idea. But bring Willie back, Mountain Dew. What's stopping you? And then 66 Across pasta sauce brand, Ragu. I don't know why they're making me laugh. I feel like because people shit on Ragu.
They do.
Not
Poor
me.
Ragu.
I don't care. But we like to see it in there. And then 45 down, colored part of the iris. Areola. That's not the areola I know.
No, me neither. But you learn something new every day when you do a crossword.
You do. Areola's been in the New York Times before, clued as like the breast, right?
Right. I think so. It was like the clue was something like could look like a large pancake on someone's chest.
Not in the New York Times.
Whatever. I like to think that was in the New York Times.
Well,
it was
actually,
not.
Speaking of nipples, I lied. I have one more. The USA Today from April 13th by Rasa Guarnacia and Brooke Husick. 25 Across, garment foregone when working from home, perhaps.
Bra.
Brar.
I don't know how to wear bras anymore.
No, me neither. I can't be contained like that.
You cannot contain me.
No.
I'm on the loose. Okay. My last, little hit for this week from the Sunday, April 11th New York Times by Dick Schlackman and Will Nediger. The theme was great. The puzzle was called Merger Mania. And basically these familiar phrases were clued as if they were merged companies, essentially. Let me read you some. 23 Across, the first one. Result of a merger between Quaker Oats and Greyhound, ? And the answer was Life Coaches. Like Life cereal.
Oh, Life the cereal. Okay.
And
that's smart.
Greyhound Coaches. What was another one that I really liked? Oh, this was a great one. 94 Across. Result of a merger between Hormel and Instagram. And the answer was spam filters.
That's
so
nice.
Good. Or 120 Across. Result of a merger between Ralph Lauren and Starbucks. And the answer was Polo Grounds. You love to see it. We had a lot of fun on that one.
Yeah. That one is fun.
The opener of this puzzle, I was nervous, okay? Because you never know what you're going to get sometimes with the frickin' New York Times. They've changed a lot, honestly, since Grace and I have started doing the puzzle, but you still got to be a little wary. 1 Across. Men are pigs after she's through with them anyway. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? And then I was like, oh, like literally she turns men to pigs at Circe. Like from Greek or whatever mythology. And if you're interested in Circe, you should read Madeline Miller's book, Circe, which is a retelling of the story. It's amazing. Madeline Miller also wrote the Song of Achilles. If you're familiar with that, read Circe. What else do I got from that puzzle? Oh, 106 Across, blank Waldorf, the so-called Queen Bee on Gossip Girl.
Blair.
You love to see that representation.
Yeah, I do like that in the New York Times.
Right? 31 down, answer to Are You Asleep? That can't be true.
No.
Yes.
Yes. I got it. My brain just didn't work there for a second.
All good. And then just a question for you. 77 down, procrastinator's problem. And the answer was time crunch. And I just want to say, as a procrastinator, I do my best work when I'm crunched for time. I don't know if it's a problem so much as a solution.
Yeah. I don't know. I get what you're saying, but then I'm like, but do I really? Or is that just what I tell myself?
Well, the problem is like, I have yet to fail or to have negative repercussions for my horrible actions in terms of procrastinating. And so I will continue to act the way I act. If I continue to succeed, then I'm going to continue to procrastinate. So whose fault is it really? Not me. I'm not the one judging me here.
You're
Just saying.
daring the universe. Well, that's like
live on air.
There's a TikTok or something or a meme that's like, I work well under pressure. And it's like me under pressure, sweating profusely, crying.
We've all been there.
Yes. Well, should we flip our coin?
Let's flip the coinage.
Our coin?
What?
Our collectible coin?
Oh, I could dig around in my desk and get out one of those collectibles.
Flip the digital one.
But I'm going to flip the digital coin because she's here. And she's queer and she's ready. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Flipping the coin now. Tails.
Me?
Little old Grace.
Look at that. On April 9th, 2019, the Indian Army claimed that one of its team members had spotted mysterious footprints close to Nepal's Makalu base camp. According to reports, the prints measured 32 by 15 inches. Is this your topic?
No.
Okay. Which leads me to this week's topic, coming from the Washington Post, Sunday, puzzle by Evan Bernholz, themeless number 16, 81 across, creature featured in The Snow Creature.
Yeti, of course.
Yes, the Yeti. Now, did we do a topic? Did you do a topic on Everest, or did you just talk about it once?
I think we talked about it once a long, long time ago, like at the very beginning of the show. Maybe when we were talking about like the world wonders or something like that. And I was talking about how like the stories about how there's like a queue to get up the mountain and people are just dying in the queue.
Mm-hmm. And the dead bodies stay up there. And yeah, okay. Because I remember then going down a rabbit hole after, but when I looked on the topic list, I couldn't find it on there. So I was like, maybe I just imagined that, but...
Right. And yes, we do keep a list of all of our topics so that we don't repeat because sometimes we forget.
I've forgotten. Like, I forgot what I did last week.
I have no idea what my last topic was.
But yes, the Yeti lives on or around Everest, supposedly.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about it. So this information is from the BBC on an article titled, Is the Himalayan Yeti a Real Animal? By Lucy Jones. Let's just talk about who the Yeti is. He's basically like the snowy cousin of Bigfoot and Sasquatch. He's often depicted as a huge, shaggy ape man with huge feet, saber-like teeth, and gray or white fur.
You love to hear it. I wonder what their family reunions are like. You know, Thanksgiving, do they come together?
I don't know. Well, they're having a big resurgence now. I mean, there's like that movie Abominable. Zendaya voiced one of the Yetis, if you remember that Vine. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we would recognize the Yeti today from like Scooby-Doo, from the top of the Expedition Everest ride, Animal Kingdom, spoiler alert.
Love that ride.
But he actually has origins in Nepalese folklore. So from Nepal. Okay. Shiva Dakal collected 12 traditional stories about Yetis in his book, Folk Tales of Sherpa and Yeti. And he basically just talks about these old traditional myths. And basically the Yeti myths were about danger and staying safe. So for example, in a tale called The Annihilation of the Yeti, the Sherpas try to fight a group of attacking Yetis, and the plan is to drink a lot and start fighting each other, hoping that the Yetis would follow suit and start fighting each other and killing each other off. But it doesn't end up going well. The surviving Yetis declare revenge and like continue their reign of terror up the mountain.
Okay.
In another story,
like that plan though, you know?
Is it? I don't know. In another story, the Yeti grows taller and bigger as the day goes on, and the human that sees him loses consciousness and energy.
Okay.
So, does this mean that the Yeti was real, or is it just another example of folklore being used to, provide morality and safety lessons? Like in this case, basically telling people don't approach wild animals. Especially like where they live, lots of wild animals around there. And also don't try and force them to drink alcohol and fight each other.
Don't do that. It might not work. Might sound like fun, but
they don't want to. But also it's like the fear of Yetis will, keep kids like from wandering off and everything. So it's practical to have this big bad monster.
Of course.
And that inspired M. Night Shyamalan's movie The Village. Okay.
Ah, yes.
I think. So how did this evolve into the current day hunt for the Yeti? Because obviously people are still looking for the Yeti. I mean, in 2019, people thought they saw Yeti footprints.
It's true.
This basically all started when Westerners, came in and got their grubby little hands all over everything.
What else do we expect at this point?
Yeah. So in 1921, the explorer and politician Charles Howard Bury led a British expedition to Mount Everest, and they came across some large footprints, and the Sherpa told them they belonged to Meto Kangmi, which is Nepalese for man, bear, snowman, roughly translated. So Henry Newman was a journalist who interviewed the expedition members when they got back, and he was like so excited about this story, but he mistranslated Meto to filthy instead of like, big man, bear, whatever. And he thought abominable was a better word than filthy, and hence the birth of the abominable snowman.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
So that journalist created that term.
Thanks. And actually, Grace did a topic on translation.
Yeah.
And the importance of translation. Just go back into our episodes and find it.
But basically the rest was history after that. Like swarms of expeditioners came to Mount Everest, came to Nepal, came to the Himalayas looking in search for the famed Yeti. In 1951, mountaineer Eric Shipton took an actual photograph of a supposed Yeti footprint at the base of Mount Everest. And that really, sparked people. So everyone was getting in on this. Even the first man who's credited with climbing Mount Everest, his name is Sir Edmund Hillary. I want to note that he didn't climb it alone. He had a Sherpa mountaineer, Tenzing Norgay. They, so he's like, a serious expeditioner, wanted to climb to the top of Mount Everest. He actually led a Yeti hunting expedition in Nepal. So like, everyone was in on this. And he is credited with photographing mysterious footprints, and he also retrieved a 240-year-old scalp that he thought belonged to the Yeti, but spoiler alert, it actually belonged to a Sero, which is like a goat-like creature. But that just goes to show that it wasn't just like crazy conspiracy theorists. I mean, maybe you have to be a little crazy to want to climb Mount Everest, but
that's a whole different. Yeah, I mean, like, why are you actively going to look somewhere where you could die?
This is a different breed of people.
Yeah, and they're also paying like tens of thousands of dollars to potentially die.
Yeah. Well, this is like back in the day when people were first climbing Everest. Now, that's a whole other thing that you should look into. It's all messed up. But it got to, like, the Daily Mail, which is the London, gossip magazine. They were sponsoring Yeti hunting trips because obviously they would like break a story, if they actually found the Yeti or proof of it.
Well, I can't remember, but they might have been the same newspaper sponsoring all the Loch Ness Monster stuff too.
This is, kind of related, you'll see. So the Snow Creature movie, which was clued in the crossword, came out in 1954, and then The Abominable Snowman came out in 1957. And in 1958, Yeti hunting even got roped into Cold War competitions between the US and Russia, as did everything like chess and I don't know. This has like come up in multiple topics if you've been listening for a while. But yes, there were even like competing Yeti hunters.
Okay.
Which actually I would watch that movie.
I would watch that like reality TV show.
Well, a Cold War Yeti competition, Yeti hunting competition.
Yes.
Could be interesting. But like, goes without saying that people had Yetis on the brain.
They did.
So the government of Nepal is smart. And in 1959, they started regulating the hunt for Yetis.
Good for them. Yes. Very good.
So here are some of the rules. So if you are interested in going, you need to know this. A royalty of 5,000 Indian currency will have to be paid to His Majesty's government of Nepal for a permit to carry out an expedition in search of the Yeti. So
good.
If you want to go look for one, you got to pay. Doesn't matter if you find one or not. In case Yeti is traced, it can be photographed or caught alive, but it must not be killed or shot at except in an emergency arising out of self-defense. All photographs taken of the animal, the creature itself, if captured alive or dead, must be surrendered to the government of Nepal at the earliest time. You're not playing. News and reports throwing light on the actual existence of the creature must be submitted to the government of Nepal as soon as they are available and must not in any way be given out to the press or reporters for publicity without the permission of the government of Nepal.
I mean, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It also kind of sounds like the government of Nepal knows that there's Yetis.
Maybe. Yeah, seems. You'll see by the end of this, all the things... Some things seems kind of suspicious. We will see.
Okay.
So, did you know in a museum there's a Yeti's finger?
I did not know that. Is that in the Disney Museum right before the ride?
No. England owns it, I believe.
Well, or did they steal it?
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm going to tell you. This is another article from BBC.com titled Tracing the Origins of a Yeti's Finger by Matthew Hill. And this involves no other than Hollywood star James Stewart. You may know him from Rear Window, Vertigo, It's a Wonderful Life.
What the hell is going on? What is going on?
He helped smuggle a Yeti finger to London. Okay. He didn't steal it, but you're not supposed to take that on an airplane. So basically, Peter Byrne was a mountaineer, and he was on a Yeti hunting expedition in the Himalayas in 1958, as people were wont to do at that time.
Of course.
And they camped out at a temple called Pangbok. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. Byrne actually spoke Nepalese, and he was talking to the Sherpas who worked there, and one of them told him that the temple had a hand of a Yeti which had been there for many years. So Byrne went back to London, where he told Professor Osmond Hill about the hand, and Professor Hill became obsessed with this hand. He was like, you need to go back, you need to get that hand, I want to do all these studies on it, I want to test it. And Byrne was like, well, I already asked the Sherpas if I could take it. Of course, the audacity. But the Sherpas
the caucasity, more like, Jesus Christ.
The Sherpas said no. They were like, it would bring bad luck to the temple. If you take this hand, you can't take it. But Hill convinced Byrne to go back one more time with a human finger in exchange for a Yeti finger.
Oh my God, I hate this.
This is according to Byrne. Says Hill gave Byrne an old finger that was all dried out, and Byrne says he has no idea where this... Or no, he pulled out a hand and chopped off a finger, and Byrne says he has no idea where this hand came from. So that's another unanswered question.
Okay. Open investigation to that, please.
Yeah. So Byrne returned to the temple and somehow was able to make an exchange. He got a piece of the Yeti finger in exchange for this human finger. Now, how did he actually make this exchange in good faith? Did he just do a quick swap out? Did he actually make the exchange or not? Did he not get the Yeti finger?
History usually speaks for itself when it comes to, white people, especially British people, going places and bringing things back to England and then, refusing to give it back to the countries they belong to.
Either way, he claims that he was able to make the exchange and he had the Yeti finger from the temple.
Okay.
But he needed help smuggling the finger back. So in comes James Stewart and his wife Gloria, who happened to be in India at the time and got somehow roped into this. So Gloria, James Stewart's wife, actually hid the finger in her lingerie case and checked it as a checked luggage. I don't know if they had carry-on back then, but they got to Heathrow and the case was missing. So she didn't get it until a few days later, and the finger was still in there. See, this is where my questions. It's like,
God.
Did Byrne actually get the Yeti finger? Did someone switch it out in the lingerie case? We don't know. Conspiracies. So Byrne gave the finger to to Professor Hill and then lost contact with him.
What? After all of that? Are you kidding me? This is the worst written TV show I've ever freaking watched.
So years later, a DNA test was done on the remaining sliver of finger, and it was said to be of human origin. But get this, that finger is all that remains of the original so-called Yeti's hand, as the rest of the hand was stolen from the temple in the 90s. And there have been some movements to, get the original hand back. They've made a replica and given it to the temple, but supposedly the monastery would like the hand returned, but they don't want any trouble.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's basically people suck. But my question is, this is one of the things, okay, we did the test on supposedly the Yeti hand and it came back human, but we don't actually know if that finger was the original.
That was the one that came from the temple. Prove it.
A lot of stuff happened. He supposedly made this exchange. He had a human finger on hand when he went down there. And then, the lingerie case, who knows?
And he lost touch with the professor after he got back to England. Is it because the professor found out that he lied about bringing the Yeti finger back? Okay. All right. Someone needs to blow this story up. Blow this story wide open.
But since then, there have been a plethora of footprints, grainy photographs, eyewitness accounts from mountaineers.
Of course.
And supposedly, bone fragments, hair samples have been found. Oh, no, not supposedly. Bone fragments and hair samples have been found, but they have all been attributed to wildlife like bears and antelopes.
Okay.
Reinhold Messner is perhaps the most famous Yeti hunter of all time. He claims to have seen one in the Himalayas in the 1980s and returned dozens of times to get to the bottom of the mystery. And his final explanation for the Yeti is it's a bear, likely a brown bear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, anticlimactic.
Yeah.
There have been some studies that initially showed that there could be some type of ancient polar bear that secretly lived in the Himalayas they didn't know about, or maybe it was like they were polar bears in the Himalayas and it mated with a brown bear and created the Yeti. There were a couple different, they tried to DNA tests on hair, but those have all been disproven.
Mm-hmm.
The most damning Yeti research of yet was published in 2017 in a scientific paper titled Evolutionary History of Enigmatic Bears in the Tibetan Plateau Himalaya Region and the Identity of the Yeti. And the paper published the findings of the DNA analysis of 9 so-called Yeti specimens. Of the 9 collected and analyzed, 1 belonged to a dog and the other 8 to one of 3 bear species: an Asian black bear, a Himalayan brown bear, or a Tibetan brown bear.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, bears are huge.
Yeah.
They're like actually massive. Like I think like, you think, okay, bears are big, right? Like the average Joe and Jane, they know that a bear is big. But like when you come face to face with a bear, it's like really big, like prehistoric. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And,
just like horses are
standing
huge.
up on 2 legs.
Right.
Walking.
And if you got like weird mating going on between the different bear types, maybe there was polar bears at one point, you're going to get some weird coats going on.
Well, one of the like misconceptions about Yetis, they're often portrayed as being white or gray, like in movies and stuff. But eyewitness accounts have actually said they were brown or red. So that makes more sense.
Okay.
A brown bear. Yeah. So basically, in summary, there is no hard proof that Yetis exist, but that won't stop me.
It will not stop me either. I want you to prove that there's no hard proof. You have yet to prove it.
There's no hard proof that they don't exist. You can say that about anything, though.
It's true. It's true.
But yeah, I mean, people mostly chalk it up to bears and people letting their imagination get away with them. I like to think that like the Sherpas and stuff know that the Yeti was just like a myth, like a folklore thing, and they're like, whatever, like all these people come in and pay $5,000 to do an expedition. They definitely do like Yeti tours in Nepal. I don't think it has to be like a full-on Everest expedition, but it's like, oh yeah, Yeti sighting here, that type of stuff, which
right.
I think they should be doing that.
Absolutely.
Make money off people's desperation.
Yeah, for sure. I would maybe even go on one of them just because, like,
what else?
I would. Like that sounds like the coolest freaking thing to do.
Sorry, when I say people's desperation, I'm also desperate. I would love to go on a Yeti hunting trip.
I know.
I would go on a Loch Ness monster hunting trip, even though...
How much fun would it be to plan, like, a weird monster sighting vacation thing where you do things like you go to Scotland and, you go on like a boat tour to find the Loch Ness Monster. Then you hop down to Nepal, you try and find the Yeti. Not that I want to go to like necessarily wherever the Bigfoot is in America, but we could go there and find Bigfoot too. Or in the Chupacabra down in South America.
This is an expensive trip. We're really flying like all around the world. And it's like, forget Scotland. I'm only going to this one lake.
It's true. Well, this is one of those things. It's like a lifetime of trips. Okay?
Yeah, it would be fun, like at the end of your life on your deathbed, to be like, I searched for all they're called crypnoids or something. I think.
There's a name for them, like I think the people who research these types of beasts and animals are called cryptologists, something like that. I'm probably butchering this, but Last Podcast on the Left does incredible episodes about all of these various creatures. One of my favorite episodes they ever did was on the Jersey Devil. Would recommend checking that out, but that's one of these animals type beasts that people believe in and search for. That's fun.
Yeah, people are wild. If you've ever seen a Yeti, let us know.
Please send your pics here. We'd love to see them. My topic comes from the Tuesday, April 13th New York Times crossword puzzle by Michael Lieberman. 48 across. Beatles like hairdo. And the answer was mop top. Yes. So I'm going to be talking about famous hairstyles throughout time. Yes. But before we get into all of that, I am going to do a very, very brief history of hairstyling, sort of, just to kind of, wet the palate, get the juices flowing. Yeah. So in your mind, Grace, think of the most famous hairstyle you know. Don't tell me what it is. And then maybe I'll talk about it later. Okay. So don't forget it. Okay?
Okay.
Same with you, listeners. What's the most famous hairstyle you know? Keep it in mind. But yeah, first, a history. So as we all know, hairstyles refer to the style in which the hair on top of our head sits, right? And it may involve styling your body hair or facial hair to go along with it. People style their hair for a variety of reasons, like personal grooming, fashion, practical reasons, and cultural reasons as well. The oldest known depiction of a hairstyle dates back about 30,000 years. So there's this ancient Paleolithic site in Austria that was being excavated in the early 1900s. And during this excavation, they found a tiny little statuette, and it is now known as the Venus of Willendorf, or the Woman of Willendorf. It's estimated to have been made about 28,000 or 25,000 BCE. And the figure shows detailing around the head thought to be braids. So that's the earliest known example we have of any sort of pictorial depiction of a person with a styled hair, which is kind of cool. And I'm going to talk about various ancient civilizations and what they might have done with their hair. We're going to start with the ancient Greeks. So Spartan boys usually cut their hair very short, but as soon as they reached the age of puberty, they would grow it long, and it was kind of like a pride thing. They called it the cheapest of ornaments. So the cheapest thing that you can do to ornament your body is your hair. It's not true nowadays. It's actually probably the most expensive thing if you're actually going to the salon and stuff. It's very expensive. Spartan men and women might have also worn their hair tied in a knot over the crown of their head. Athenians, on the other hand, would wear their hair long as children and then cut it all off at puberty. The act of hair cutting was quite ceremonial. You would offer a drink to a god, and then the hair would be dedicated to a different god. Some ancient Greeks would even travel to Delphi to perform this ceremony. And yes, we've talked about Delphi before in episode 71. What have you done? Or see what you've done. So check that out. After the hair was cut, you would then grow it long again. And you would wear it in a knot at the crown of your head with a clasp that kind of looked like a grasshopper. It's kind of interesting. Women might have also worn their hair with some sort of network or a headband made out of metal and leather. Some might have covered their hair with a sort of sack or bag made out of silk or wool. Or you could have worn it with a cloth called a mitra that would be woven around the hair, and it can kind of be compared to a contemporary turban. Ancient China, inspired by Confucian values, right? Confucian values mandated that hair be kept long since it was considered to be a gift from your parents. Young women would wear their hair down to show that they were unmarried. Some would keep their hair braided until the age of 15 when they went through a coming-of-age ceremony called the Ji Li, which roughly translates to hair-pinning ceremony. The girl's hair would be washed, combed into a twist, held together with a pin, and then this girl was determined to be of age to marry. And once married, the girl would actually tie her hair up. Only widows were known to cut their hair, and some would even shave it off. A simple hairdo from the Han Dynasty consisted of a low ponytail, tied loosely so that the hair framed a face on both sides and showed off the forehead. Hair was parted directly down the middle because beauty ideals favored symmetry. And men would basically keep their hair super long because long hair is a sign of virility. So good for you. But then there became a period of time where an emperor passed what is known as the Q order, which mandated men shave the front parts of their head as the Manchu people do, and it would keep the back super long. So basically the front half of the head was completely shaved, to the scalp, and then you'd have a long braid or ponytail in the back.
I feel like that's going to come back.
It could.
Kind of like a mullet.
Seriously. And now I'm going to talk about ancient Egypt. The most common hair color in ancient Egypt was either very dark or almost black, although you might, on occasion, have seen someone with natural auburn or blonde hair, which is kind of interesting. One of the very first mummies ever found in Egypt actually dated prior to the ancient Egypt that we would have learned about in school. The very first mummy, when they found it, their hair that was still on the body was blonde. Like just blonde hair. That must
have been a surprise.
Surprise!
Anthropologists or whatever.
Exactly. And Egyptians used various shades of henna to dye their hair, and even Ramses II used henna regularly in old age to rejuvenate his white hair. Good for you, Ramses. We have to take care of ourselves. Whatever makes you feel good, okay? Egyptians also cropped their hair or even shaved their head for the sake of hygiene, like think about like lice and stuff like that. And they would then cover their shorn heads with elaborate wigs, fake braids, and hair extensions. Age also played a role, though gender not really, which is kind of cool. Children would usually have their hair shaved until puberty, and then they would get to decide how they wanted to style their hair. Older people used... Yeah, exactly.
Makes getting ready for school really easy.
Could you imagine if your parents were like, little kids? All right, hop up on the stool. We're going to shave your head down again. And then you turn like 15, and they're like, okay, now you can do whatever you want. I mean...
I'd take it. I mean... I had short hair forever as a kid.
I kind of would, toy with the idea of just shaving my head off. Shaving all of my hair off and just getting wigs anyway. Like, why not? The cost of a haircut could
wigs are
equal the cost of a wig, a nice wig. Because wigs are expensive. But
I think they're more expensive than a nice haircut.
Depends on the type of haircut you're getting. Because
I support this.
If we're talking all the way through the process, haircuts can be anywhere from I'm going to lowball us here. Like if you got hair like me, like $200, and if you're getting cut in color, to $700 for a woman.
Oh my God.
Have you not seen that? It's crazy. I mean, I don't get my hair cut, colored, so.
Mm-mm. I mean, no, I believe you, but.
It's crazy. Anyway.
It's wild.
So yeah, kids would shave their hair down. Puberty would hit. Mom and dad would be like, hey, what do you want to do now? And they'd be like, I don't know. Let me figure it out. Old people, on the other hand, would just wear wigs to hide baldness. Cool. Workmen would wear their hair short, but they would usually have bangs in the front. And then, of course, the most powerful social classes also used wigs, but they had to be super elaborate wigs to show how rich and powerful they were. Of course. So that's just very, very basic hair history for you from 3 very specific civilizations. I'm going to do some fast forwarding. We're going to do some quick generalizations by the genders. So we're going to start with the men. Okay. In the 15th and 16th century, European men would wear their hair cropped no longer than shoulder length. It was fashionable to have bangs and fringes for men at the time. That's kind of cool. 17th century, male hairstyles grew longer, okay? Waves and curls were fashionable. And then King Louis XIII came around and he pioneered the male wig, okay? In 1624 due to his premature baldness. And this trend spread throughout Europe and European-influenced countries. The beard at this point, facial hair was completely out of style. We were just wearing wigs, okay? No beards, wigs only. Actually, can we do that post-quarantine? Send out a memo. Beards are out, wigs are in. Who's down?
We could. No one would listen to us.
No one will listen to us. I mean, we don't have to shave our beards because we don't have one. But we could just get wigs. We could get wigs just for fun.
I would, but the good ones are, an investment.
They are. I know. Anyway, okay. So we got wigs. It's the 17th century. In the early 17th century, wigs were super long and elaborate. By the end of the 17th century, they were kind of short. And by the 18th century, natural hair was back on the rise, okay? As a product of the neoclassical movement. There was this famous hairstyle called the Bedford crop, which came about in 1795. The British government started to tax hair powder. So people were wearing natural hair, but they would still powder it with white powder for whatever reason. But the British government, the British government was like, we're trying to make money off y'all people. And so this politician, Francis Russell, the 5th Duke of Bedford, decided to protest. He abandoned the powdered style, and he started wearing an unpowdered style, and he dared all of his friends to do the same, and they did. And unsurprisingly, the style caught on.
They just went around unpowdered?
Unpowdered, out in the open, no cares. No cares. Okay. So women, what were women doing? Up until like the Middle Ages, most women grew their hair as long as it would grow. Hair would mostly be tied up and covered by like a snood or a veil, especially when you were leaving the home. If you were outside of the home and your hair was out in the open, it was a mark of being a sex worker. So you weren't like really supposed to wear your hair loose in public. Mm-hmm. But from the 16th to the 19th century, European women's hair became more visible, and they began to include ornamentation like flowers, feathers, huge ostrich plumes, things like that, pearls, jewels, ribbons, and small crafted objects like birds, ships, and windmills you could find in women's hair.
Ow. I feel like that would hurt your neck. All that weight.
Oh my,
they had strong necks back then, I guess.
You gotta have a strong neck.
To have a full windmill?
A full ship? Yeah, no. Insane. By World War I, women around the world shifted to short hairstyles as they were more manageable, like the bob, for instance. Mm-hmm. After World War II, women started to wear their hair in softer, more natural styles. Longer, with waves, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to talk about specific famous do's from history. Grace, tell me what hairstyle you thought of.
Well, I don't know if this is the most famous. The only one I could think of was the Rachel.
Yes, I'm going to be talking about the Rachel. Okay. Not right now, but at the end. We'll get to the Rachel. We're going to be starting off with Marie Antoinette's Le Pouf from 1774. This hairstyle, Le Pouf, also just known as the pouf, debuted at the coronation of Louis XIV. Essentially, this hairstyle was built on wire scaffolding with pads, pomade, and powder. Poufs climbed to the heights of 3 feet and grew increasingly intricate. Talk about strong necks, okay?
Yeah.
The Queen's stylists, Rose Burton and Leonard Otte, they basically created the style, and they would put this on the Queen's head every day. They reflected the wearer's sentiments or current events. So, for instance, Marie's pouf à la inculation marked the king's smallpox vaccination in 1774. And her pouf à la belle poule had a miniature boat, celebrated a naval victory in 1778. I think the most famous pouf is the one with the boat. It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah, we love the school spirit.
We love it. And so I just sent Grace a picture of Marie Antoinette's pouf à la belle poule, which is the one that has the miniature boat. I'm going to try and edit the podcast on YouTube so that you can actually see the pictures that I'm sending Grace.
That's wild.
Crazy, right?
It's much, it goes really far back.
It does. It does. The next cut that I'm going to be talking about is called the Titus cut. And the Titus cut is from 1795. And this is sort of directly related to the Marie Antoinette hairstyle, sort of. And you'll find out why soon. The Titus cut, the name of it is in reference to Titus Junius Brutus, the elder son of Lucius Junius Brutus, who founded the Roman Republic in 509 BC by famously overthrowing the Roman monarchy. And this cut rose to popularity after the French Revolution. So after Marie Antoinette got the chop, no pun intended, okay? Mm-hmm. It is considered to be one of the first ever popular short female hairstyles. It's super cropped, brushed upward to leave the neck exposed, a response to the practice of a revolutionary executioner cutting off one's hair before sending someone to the guillotine. Okay, and just send her a picture. She's going to get to see this beautiful cut very soon.
Oh, wow.
And that's a woman in that photo.
I can tell. Her boobs are in the photo.
They're in the photo. They might not make it into the YouTube. We'll see. Keep your hopes up, listeners. The next cut. Well, yeah. Okay. So first of all, what I think is really interesting about that is that before the 1800s, women started cutting their hair this short. And that was like a response to the revolution in France. These kind of like weird political movements kind of inspire these strange, potentially strange hairstyles. I think is very, very unique. The next is the Marcel wave. It is the precursor to what we now know as the perm. Okay. And it's named after a French hairstylist, Francois Marcel, who invented the style in 1872. You would use heated curling irons, and the style was popular for more than 5 decades. It kind of looks like those finger curls, you know?
Mm-hmm. How'd you get them to stay like that?
I guess just the heat and potentially pomade, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
No, so it wasn't like really a perm. I bet you those things, whatever she's using, in like the curler, that had to be so dangerous.
Oh, for sure. They're probably sticking them into like a fire or something and then putting it onto your head. Like this is the precursor to like a curling iron, right? Live wire.
For the price of beauty. She does look good.
She looks great. And it's a super popular hairstyle. Everyone's seen a hairstyle like that.
Mm-hmm.
The next hairstyle is a Japanese traditional hairstyle called the nihogami. And there are a number of traditional hairstyles that fall under that title. But traditionally, the construction of most of these hairstyles consisted of 2 wings at the side of the head, curving upwards the back of the head to form a top knot or ponytail, with a long loop of hair below that was drawn into a top knot. And then if you were a woman, you might adorn this with some sort of accessory like a pin or a comb or florals.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely seen this one before.
It's gorgeous. And it's insane to me to think that people could do this to their hair. And I can't even blow dry my bangs the way I want them to be blow dried.
You cannot I'm sure there were plenty of people this time who couldn't do this and we're like you, like, how come everyone else can do all these fancy hairstyles?
Right. That brings me to another traditional hairstyle called the chonmage. Grace, you might have seen this hairstyle come up in your sumo research.
Yes.
This is a traditional Japanese top knot haircut worn by men, most commonly associated with the Edo period and samurai, and in more recent times, the sumo wrestlers. In traditional Edo era, chonmage was like the top part of the head was shaved, right? Mm-hmm. And the remaining hair was oiled and waxed before being tied into a small tail folded onto the top of the head in that characteristic top knot. And now we're going to fast forward a lot. We're going into the 1900s, folks, okay?
All right.
Flapper period. We're going to talk about the Louise Brooks bob, also known as the Lulu bob. It was traditional for women in the West to wear their hair long for a very long time. And short hair was seen as something of a rebellion, right? The Lulu bob is part of that kind of rebellious nature. It was cut super short, straight around the head at about jaw level with bangs in the front. It was kind of popularized in 1909 by a Polish hairdresser who was based in Paris at the time. He was called Antoine de Paris. He was basically the first celebrity hairstylist, which is kind of cool. Good for you, Antoine. And he basically created this hairstyle inspired by Joan of Arc, which I've also talked about in a different topic. So feel free to go look her up. But Louise Brooks is the person that is credited with popularizing this hairstyle, especially in America. She basically wore this hairstyle her entire life, like even from like being a young girl into her 20s. And in the 20s, the hairstyle became a massive sensation. Women everywhere wanted to copy the straight cut with the bangs and short, shiny black hair. It's very striking.
Yes. People still have this today, I think. Like,
oh, they
it's
do.
Definitely a
artsy-fartsy look.
Yeah.
And this next hairstyle is probably one of my favorites and one that I've always wanted to be able to do.
That one's cute.
So there's 2 I just sent you. And this is the Jean Seberg, or the pixie cut, okay? This is basically from the 1950s to present day. Pixie cuts are still a thing that people get nowadays, right?
Mm-hmm.
The pixie cut is short and sweet. It's essentially the female version of like a crew cut, you know? It's like a simplified way of saying it. Jean Seberg cropped her hair for her film debut, St. Joan, which was released in 1957. Mia Farrow cut her own pixie cut with her fingernail scissors in 1965. And then Twiggy's hairstyle is thanks to a happy accident. Everyone has seen Twiggy's incredible like pixie cut with the really cool 60s makeup eyeliner underneath her eyes. At the age of 16, she went to an upscale salon in Mayfair, London called the House of Leonard. She asked for a simple shampoo and set. Leonard, the owner of the salon, was like, actually, like I really want to try this kind of like new fashionable pixie cut thing that I've been seeing people do. Do you care? And Twiggy was super shy. She was like, no. And she couldn't say no. So she didn't say no. And so she got a pixie cut. And Leonard actually had a friend who was a professional photographer named Barry Laitkin. And I guess if you're a fashion person, you might know all of these names. I know none of them. This Barry guy took several photos for Leonard. And then the hairdresser hung the photos in his salon of Twiggy. And then this fashion journalist, Deirdre McSherry from the Daily Express, saw the images and asked to meet the young girl, and the rest is history.
Wow. I do, every time I see people with pixie hair, like a really short hair, women versus them when they have long hair, I'm like, yeah, you look so much more striking with short hair, because I just think it's less common maybe, or you like get to see their face more. Exactly.
There's a lot less to distract you from, you know?
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons why I will never get a pixie cut.
I love pixie cuts, but I feel like they're actually like more work than, you know, depending on your hair type. Like I feel like since my hair is wavy, I would have to style it in a pixie. I couldn't just like throw it up and then you have to keep getting it cut over and over again. So
it would be different for you, especially with the curly hair.
Yeah. I just feel like it's kind of secretly more high maintenance than you would think.
The next style came about in the 60s. It's called the bouffant, okay? Made famous by Miss Jacqueline Kennedy, of course. The intent of the style was to achieve both height and volume. Hair on top of the head was raised by backcombing or teasing it. And then you would kind of create a pile of tangled hair on the top of your head. And then you would take unteased hair from the front of the head and comb it over top of the pile to make it look sleek and smooth. And that's the bouffant.
It does look big. Wait, that's the bouffant?
That's the bouffant.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, that brings me to the beehive, which was popular in the 60s, which was essentially developed out of the bouffant style, but to kind of push it more to the extreme. It was a more elaborately teased hair, more elaborately lacquered, like bigger, like the bouffant, but tall. So it's kind of like in between a bouffant and Marie Antoinette's 3-foot scaffolding piece. That kind of like falls right into the middle of that.
A happy medium.
Interestingly enough, this style was developed in 1960 by a woman from Elmhurst, Illinois, which is weird. She was the owner of Margaret Vinci Coiffures in downtown Chicago. She won a national championship for hairstyling in 1954, and then Modern Beauty Salon magazine asked her to design like a new style for like what was going to happen in the years to come, and she came up with the beehive. And just like the bouffant, you have huge piles of hair that you put non-teased piles of hair over top of, and it creates this like beehive shape. It might also be known to some listeners as the B-52 because apparently it resembles the nose of a Boeing B-52 strategic bomber.
I never heard that.
That brings me to the late 60s, early 70s, and we're seeing the afro. This is not the first time we've seen the afro, obviously, but natural hairstyles became hugely important to the civil rights movement, obviously. And the afro was a symbol of Black identity amongst people who decided to kind of embrace natural styles and kind of forget about white beauty standards. It was more than just a hairstyle. It was a form of expression and communication for Black communities in North America. And the picture I just showed Grace is that of Angela Davis sporting her insanely iconic afro. Our pentultimate hairstyle, my friends, is none other than the Farrah Fawcett. We have to mention Farrah here because I feel like I would love to rock Farrah Fawcett's hairstyle. And I feel like I'm like a limp version of Farrah Fawcett's hairstyle.
Well, you need like curlers and hairspray.
which I don't ever want to do. So I have to make peace with being Farrah Fawcett's limp cousin.
Hey, that's not a bad place to be.
No, it's not. The Farrah Fawcett, or the feathered flip, came to popularity in the 70s. Farrah Fawcett posed for a swimsuit poster that ended up breaking tons of records and sold 12 million copies. She was in a red one piece, and she had her huge, feathered, beautiful hair in the photo.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Get your mind out of the
We've
gutter.
all seen the picture, okay? We know why it was so popular.
It was her hair. Mm-hmm. Anyway, basically she embodied like that quintessential California girl, right? And it launched the career of her hairstylist, and it led to her getting this role on Charlie's Angels, and now she has a Farrah Fawcett shampoo line. Whatever, she's doing well for herself, okay?
Yeah, I guess do what you got to do.
It's true. And the last hairstyle that I'm talking about today is none other than the Rachel. 1994, okay? Jennifer Aniston. She calls this cut the ugliest cut I've ever seen, which is hilarious to me. Her hairstylist at the time was a guy named Chris McMillan. The first season of Friends was hugely successful. Jennifer had, long-ish hair with like a fringe sort of thing. And McMillan urged her to try something different. Quote, I told her she should grow her fringe out, get some highlights, and just try something a bit different. We cut the length and added in all these layers to blend the bottom of the bangs, and the rest is history. Apparently he was high when he cut it, and Jennifer hated it because she had no idea how to style it. It didn't matter, though. It became one of the most requested hairstyles in the 90s. And Jennifer still uses Chris to style her hair to this day.
Yeah. Well, towards the end of Friends, she did change it up. She eventually had her hair super long. I feel like that was in like the early 2000s, the really, really long hair.
True, yes. Like the Gwyneth Paltrow style or the Cher long hair, I'm going to close this out by saying that I found an article that details the trendiest hairstyles from the year you were born. So, of course, I looked at Grace's and my most famous hairstyles. Grace, born in 1991, was the tumbling updo with face-framing pieces as popularized by Cindy Crawford. So, like, basically what every girl wanted to wear to prom, the big curls on the top of the hair with the face-framing curls. I wore it to I don't know how many school dances. So,
with like the hairsprayed ribbon curls, perfect ribbon curls.
Exactly. And then for 1992, which is the year I was born, was the grunge hair like Courtney Love's bleached and messy locks. So,
I take it.
Which I think is kind of interesting, the fact that you have curly hair and your trendy hairstyle was this curly, do. And I have this kind of weird, limp, shaggy thing, just like Courtney Love, okay? Fate?
If you were born in 1991, do you have wavy or curly hair? Let me know.
Let us know. So yeah, that's what I got for you today. All things hair.
Makes me want to get a haircut. I do want to get a haircut. Once I'm fully vaccinated, that's
it's
on my list
over
of
for
things
you
to do.
losers.
Yeah. Everyone wait and see. I'm going to step out of this panorama. A new woman.
A new woman. Indeed. I also want to get a haircut, but yeah, it's just too expensive every time. And if I'm not going anywhere for the next 6 months, I don't want to spend $200 getting my haircut to sit and stare at 4 walls of an apartment.
True. My place isn't as fancy as yours. I'm not spending that much, but
right.
I understand. I see what you mean. Yeah, it's what's the point to look at myself in the mirror? Sometimes you have to do things for yourself, though.
True. That's so true. And I did it once during quarantine. And then I kicked myself later. I was like, you never once styled it after you got it cut. What were you thinking? I'm like, well, at least I helped my hairstylist. I paid her. So there we go.
There you go. Well,
if you have a famous hairstyle, write to us.
Yeah. And if you want to write to us, you can find us on Twitter at The Good Eve Girls.
Or Instagram at The Good Evening Girls.
Or TikTok at The Good Eve Girls.
We're everywhere.
And nowhere at the same time.
Ooh. We're like the Yeti.
Yeah. See if you can find us.
I dare you. Ooh, actually, we are hosting a Grace and Chelsea finding exhibition. You have to pay us $5,000 and we'll send you a scavenger hunt.
No, don't do that. I don't want anyone to find me.
I do want $5,000 though. So
Yeah, but I feel like I can't get into this now.
We'll talk off camera.
Yeah, we'll workshop that. But until that happens, I guess we'll just see everyone next week.
See you around, folks. It's been a joy. It's been a blizzard. It's been a ball.
Bye.
Bye.